If you're in construction, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the Constructive Behaviors Podcast. I'm your host, Barb Allen. I'm a woman with decades of experience in the construction industry, and most of it on the job site. I know how rewarding this industry can be. But like you, I also know that we could improve. Let's work together to make changes from the inside out. Had an internship before fully joining the construction industry. Was it beneficial? What did you learn from it? Today's guest is an amazing contributor to our industry. She has been in the industry for over 2 decades, spending more than 15 years on the project management side before moving to the talent development side of the business. Today, Emily and I are going to talk about how to build the next generation of construction management leaders through a structured internship program. Emily Brown is the Vice President of Talent Development at McCown Gordon Construction, based here in Kansas City, Missouri. And I am super glad to not only have her as a guest, but to call her a friend. So welcome to the show, Emily.
Hi, Barb. Thanks for having me.
I saw you laughing when I said over 2 decades. I'm almost over 3, so don't feel bad about the over 2, right?
Yeah, it's just all that experience, right?
It is experience that has gotten us to where we are today to give all of the listeners the advice that we have. All right, so let's tell the listeners what your background is because, so let me say this. Emily and I have known each other for a while. We've known of each other for a very long time. We both were at J. Dunn back in the day. And I was looking today when I was just getting some prep ready for this. You and I on LinkedIn, we have 250 mutual connections.
No way.
That is
oh my
how
gosh.
connected you and I are with the rest of the people in our industry. So I thought that was crazy. It's rare that you see anybody that you've got that many connections with.
Yeah, I love that.
I also noticed on your LinkedIn profile that you're an Enneagram 3.
Yes.
With a 2, which is exactly what I am as well.
How have we not discussed that?
I don't know.
Oh my God. Okay, that's a whole other podcast episode.
It is a whole other episode, but I do feel, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, and if I am wrong, I'll cut it out. But I'm pretty sure the 3s also include like Oprah, Taylor Swift, Beyonce. Aren't those also 3s?
I don't think we have Taylor Swift and Beyonce, but I know we have one of them.
Okay.
Maybe it's just
Taylor's in there. Maybe I was just hoping Beyonce was also in there.
Give us Margot Robbie and we have like the 2023 trifecta.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about your path. We have known each other for a long time, but we went totally different paths. So we started at J. Dunn. You went on the project management path. I went on the superintendent path. So walk us through the path that you had and at what point you transitioned from project management to talent development.
Yes. So never in a million years would I have anticipated being in talent development and not a commercial construction PM. But I spent about 15 or maybe 16 years in project management, first at J.E. Dunn, and then I moved over to McCown Gordon. And at McCown Gordon, I was part of our management team. And we were having a discussion in 2014 about the need to really have some structured training opportunities for our associates. And I got this wonderful compliment from one of the company's founders, Pat McCown. And he said, we should structure this program similar to how Emily makes sure the healthcare construction team has current training. And I sat up a little straighter and, oh, well, isn't that nice? And I said, well, you know what? I wouldn't mind helping with that initiative. Great idea. Woohoo. And so the decision was made that I would dedicate about 20 hours a week for maybe 4 or 5 months and build the training program. And honestly, it sounded like kind of a nice brain break. Like healthcare construction is really stressful. And I thought, hey, this would be nice for a couple months. And that was 8.5 years ago. So once I got into kind of what learning and development could be, I realized that it was an entire career path. And I kind of hit time out and said, hey, there's a lot we could do with this. Do you want me to focus on this full time? And we did a lot of kind of negotiating back and forth, what was best for the business, what was best for me. And ultimately they said, yeah, would you take a stab at this? And so I started talent development at McCown Gordon in 2015. And then I realized that I didn't know enough about how people learn and the best ways to motivate and engage a learner. And so I ended up going back to school, and I got a master's in adult learning and leadership education from K-State. And in the meantime, I'd started to grow my team and grow the different things that we were offering to help our associates learn and develop. And along the way, I was also able to establish a collegiate internship program for the company. And that part has been, I don't want to say the most rewarding, but it's just a different element of reward for me as I see these bright-eyed college students, they they think they know all the things, right? And then they come in and they do maybe a 10 or 12-week internship, and they're like, wow, there is just so much to commercial construction.
Yeah.
And to see those moments where they learn something new or they experience something they never anticipated. And then now it's like I'm seeing them be promoted to manager positions. And, this will be 2024 will be my 9th year having the internship program under my responsibility. And
That's
so
awesome.
there are McCown Gordon associates with 8 years of experience who started out as my sweet college interns.
That's
So it's just
awesome.
really fun to see them grow and develop through their careers too. So that's been a fun aspect of it.
Okay, so let's go back
Mhm.
to internships. Let's
Yes.
talk for a minute about your internship, and then let's talk about my internship, and then let's talk about what you guys have in your structured program.
Okay, cool. So I did my construction management degree at Pittsburgh State University, and they have a career fair day that's just exclusive for the construction management program. And it is really well attended by industry. And I got my first internship between my sophomore and junior year, and I interned with McCarthy Construction in their Phoenix office.
Okay.
And I tell you what, going halfway across the country to get all that green off. Oh my gosh, I remember I did a pre-construction internship with McCarthy. And at one point I called a plan room and to ask if they were bidding on our project. And there's just silence on the other end of the phone. And the person I was speaking with was like, sweetheart, this is a plan room. And I'm like, uh-huh. So are you bidding? And this woman was like, here's what we do. Here's what you do. And I was just like, I am so glad that no one will remember me, 3 months from now. So I did my first internship with McCarthy, and then I interned with J.E. Dunn back in Kansas City between my junior and senior year. And I got really lucky with that internship. Dunn was awarded a contract to build out the hospital in Pittsburgh, Kansas, right
Oh,
at the end of my summer internship. And they said, hey, would you like to stay on for your senior year, maybe 15, 20 hours a week? So I had a really light course load my senior year. So it ended up being closer to like 25 or 30 hours a week, but I got to be a field engineer on site with
that's
an
awesome.
amazing superintendent, and really just helped pave the way for my career.
So my internship, um, I I really am not sure how it happened, except for some reason I remember I don't know if you remember Dr. Pink. But somehow I had a
Yeah.
connection with Dr. Pink, and he offered to give Jade on a call to see if they would give me an internship. And
Was he at Builders at
he
the
was at
time?
Builders, yeah.
Okay.
And he got me an internship with Jay Dunn, and they're like, he calls me, he's like, do you want to be in the field or in the office? And I was like, in my head, I'd always wanted to be a superintendent. And so I'm
Hmm.
like, yeah, in the office. I mean, in the field. And so I did. I was a laborer. They put me in the laborers union and I worked on the New York Life building as a laborer. I was a carpenter tender laborer for that summer. And for those listening and who have listened to my very first episode, I talk about how that's when I learned to carry a 3/4 inch sheet of plywood. Like I was like, I've got to carry this. It was amazing. But I I only worked in the field. I didn't get any kind of office experience during that, and that was what I needed from a superintendent standpoint. I got
Mhm.
a lot out of that just being a laborer, and I think that, part of me at the time was thinking, "Man, I'm planning to go into management. I would have liked to have actually seen some kind of the management part, but man, for me, I wouldn't change that at all. I needed to just see what it was like to work side by side with everyone else, see how the parts and pieces go together, see how the superintendent casually walks around the job to see if you're actually working or if you're talking. Uh, but that I had a great internship, but it was not traditional. It's not something that they were typically
Yeah.
doing at the time. I think they just weren't really sure what to do with me. But um, through the years, I've watched internships change and evolve and try and get the right people in the right spot. And some companies like bring them in and try and do 2 weeks here, 2 weeks here, 2 weeks here, 2 weeks here. Like, but I know you guys have created an actual structured program for your internships and it's really successful. So tell us what you have going on with that program.
Yeah, and it's so funny to hear that through a connection, you've landed your first construction internship, which led to, I mean, that's the catalyst for your career.
Mhm.
So I don't take our internship program lightly, even though it's a ton of fun. And I'm so excited I get to lead this program. But the structure that we've put into this is definitely a result of input that I've gotten from our interns over the years. So many of these students say, "Oh, well, I want to be a superintendent because I want to be on site." Well, do you know that at McCown Gordon, our project managers are primarily on site as well? No, they don't. And that opens up a whole other side because they just want to be near the action. And it's like, okay, well, are you interested in scheduling or are you interested in logistics or do you want to look at contracts and help buy out those contracts and figure out who has the best price? There's so many elements to our industry that I don't know that the students realize when they're just in classes.
Right.
And not even to mention estimating and pre-construction. They get all the cool toys and all the really amazing relationships. So being able to open a student's eyes to the different career paths within our industry is kind of a point of pride for me. And I think we put so much pressure on teenagers and 20-year-olds to decide what they want to do for the rest of their lives.
Right.
I think an internship is just such a good way to figure out what you like, and equally as important, what you don't like or what you don't envision yourself doing. So, our program is structured in a way where our interns do focus primarily in one or two roles, and I'll come back to that. But they get to see a lot of different aspects of our industry while they're with us for those 12 short weeks. So, for our operations interns, our construction interns, we ask them, are you most interested in building something or planning something? And if they're interested in planning, we'll usually place them with pre-construction and they get to do strategy. They get to do estimating. They get to do client and architect design team relationships. They get to do all that cool stuff and build it on the computer before we even, put a fence panel up out on site. Or they want to be project managers, they want to be superintendents, or they're not quite sure. We put them out with a project team. And just in the last year, we've stopped designating project manager versus superintendent interns simply because these students can get such a broader view of our industry and what we do every day as a construction team if they're not pigeonholed into one or the other. And that really allows both our on-site project management staff and our on-site field management staff to utilize that intern and make sure that they have a really robust experience. So one day they might be doing a safety walk with the superintendent or some logistics planning. And then the next day, they're helping to write up RFIs, or they're looking at change pricing. Maybe the architect issued a proposal request and they get to get in on the ground floor of that and work with our trade partners to, calculate how much that change might cost, assemble that, review those costs, fully understand and grasp what we're being asked to price up.
Mhm.
And so they're getting to see all these different aspects of the project. And then they have that light bulb moment to go, okay, I really gravitated towards what the superintendent was doing, or I really gravitated towards what the project manager is doing.
Yeah.
But if we're lucky enough to be able to hire that intern full time after they graduate, well, now we get like a 2-for-1 special because they've got a little tiny bit of experience on both sides and they just
Yeah.
understand that perspective a little bit more. So the roles themselves are designed so they can see a little bit of everything. But then we have those students that say, yeah, I want to go be out on site. And then partway through the summer, they say, hey, Emily, estimating is cooler than I thought it was. And I'm like, everybody's sleeping on pre-con and estimating. Like they do such amazing strategic decision making.
Mhm.
So without fail, I would say 50% of our operations interns end up doing a bid day where, I mean, they might get something, really sexy like toilet accessories, but they're helping to scope out a bid day
Yeah.
and seeing what that feels like. And, oh, I didn't realize that estimating and pre-construction managers are doing this and this and this. And just this last summer, we had an intern actually in our Manhattan, Kansas office who worked on a project in central Kansas and was right in the mix with the project manager and the superintendent. He hired on full time with us as an estimator for after graduation because
Awesome.
he got a couple glimpses into what our estimators do and was like, that's what I want to do after I graduate. So
Yeah.
they get to see different aspects, but we don't ignore the business side either. If we have marketing interns or HR interns, those students are right in the mix with the rest of our interns. We get all of our interns from all of our different offices. They come together about every other week and they get to learn from each other's experiences. So each intern has an opportunity to host all of the other interns either at their project site or they share about their department and what they're working on. Maybe it's in IT. It's like, hey, did you realize what I'm doing to make sure you can do what you need to do to be successful? So they get a little bit of business acumen along the way too, which I think is really important and kind of gain a healthy respect for IT, for marketing, for accounting, for HR. So they get to see different aspects of the business. And then we also make sure they have exposure to our business leaders. So each intern is obviously they have a manager on site, either the superintendent or the project manager or one of our estimators. And then in addition to that, they're assigned a mentor. And that person is typically someone who's been through our internship program and now works with us full time, but they're still fresh enough that they've been there, done that pretty recently. So
Mhm.
they have this ally within the ranks at McCown Gordon that can teach them about what they do. And it might be different from what the intern's doing for the summer. And then we also get them exposure to our designated leadership team. Whether that's a lunch or a breakfast, it's like, okay, captive audience, what do you want to learn from these people while you're here? And you can have lunch with the CEO, you can have lunch with the CFO. And our interns always gain a lot of really cool nuggets about not only the individuals, but their experience in the industry, the impact that they've been able to make on construction in the Midwest. And it's always fun to see kind of either the stars in their eyes after that meeting, or just like, wow, that guy was really cool. He's human. It's like, yeah, he might be a senior executive or she might lead the entire marketing team, but they're human. They were interns once.
Well, and I think something that's important, whether you're an intern or you're just someone who doesn't typically get interactions with the C-suite or the executive team, is how we as executives pay attention to who's asking the thoughtful questions when they do get that opportunity. And it's because I've been there where you're like, okay, we're taking the interns to lunch, and as an executive, and they're all sitting there. The ones you remember are the ones that asked you those thoughtful questions. No matter how good they look on paper, they may be the best candidate, but if they're not speaking up in that conversation, if they're not asking thoughtful questions, they don't stick in your mind. And so I think
Right.
it's important for anyone listening, when you have someone's ear, it's not about just asking a question to get noticed. You need to be asking thoughtful questions so that you can be like, oh, wait, I remember her. She brought this up in a meeting, right? Like, so I think that goes for interns in any position.
Absolutely. And one of my favorite things is after those interactions, I'll get a text from our CEO saying, "Oh, you know what? I chatted with Barb. She asked some great questions. Really impressive. Is she a senior?" And it really spurs their interest because
Yeah,
our internship program is our farm team. I mean, that's where we're looking to recruit that next great McCown Gordon leader. And I'm not exactly sure how these stats compare to the rest of industry, but historically speaking, we have hired and retained 65% of our interns into full-time associates.
that's
And
awesome.
so we're having 10 and 12-week interviews. These students are determining if we're the right fit for them, and we're determining if they're the right fit for us. And it just makes that offer and acceptance so much smoother and easier when we have that experience with those students.
So talking about statistics, from the outside looking in, and I'm not just saying this because you are sitting here in front of me, it is very apparent to me that McCown Gordon is attracting the most women to their
Mhm.
company, more so than any other general contractor that I'm seeing in Kansas City. That's
Well,
I
thank
I
you.
I don't know that that statistic is true, but it looks that way from the outside, that you guys just are attracting more young female talent. And is there something that you think you're doing different? I would love to know.
Well, I don't know if that's a true statistic if we have more women than other general contractors in the market, but I can tell you we are looking for the best candidates. Man, woman, black, white, purple. I want the best candidates. I want students that are curious about construction. I want students that are eager to learn and have a passion for the industry. I don't care if you have a 4.0 or a 2.5, as long as you have the right attitude and just that genuine curiosity, we can teach you what you need to know to be successful in the commercial construction industry. But one thing that I do just, I don't even know that I do it consciously, but reflecting on my experiences with so many of these interns, it's genuine care for their experience. I want to be the person for them that I didn't have when I was a junior in college, right? That person that you can go to with any question and you're not going to get laughed at. I mean, if it's funny, I'm going to laugh at it. But just being a genuine resource for these students as they navigate one of the most difficult decisions that's probably ever presented to them. It's like, where do you want to start your career? And I love taking the time to learn about them, to learn about where they're from, learn about their experiences, learn about why they chose construction or why they chose engineering. What what brought them to us, right?
Right.
And then I also make sure that they are surrounded by people who have that same care and concern for their well-being, for their success. And I know that it, again, when I'm looking back on this, I'm like, wow, I'm kind of extra, right? But I think that's what it takes to make these students feel comfortable, to give them the opportunity to be their best selves within this internship that's big and scary. And some of them have never had a quote unquote, corporate job. Maybe they've been a barista or they've been a waitress. That's what we see a lot. And all of a sudden they're in this male dominated, scary, loud, dirty, noisy construction site, right? And they've got to navigate it. I like to think that we prepare them for those things that are going to be big and scary and loud, including some of our superintendents, just to where they can go forth confidently. And maybe not on the first day,
Right.
but as the summer goes on, they build that confidence, and they have the support and the coaching and the mentorship throughout the summer to feel at home, as cheesy as that sounds.
No, it's not cheesy. It's I don't know how to say this without it's what you're doing, Emily, is you said giving them the opportunity to be their best self.
Mhm.
When you said a minute ago that you're looking for the best candidate, I think that that's what everyone should focus on. The problem is that because sexism still exists and because unconscious bias is still unconscious, the best
Mhm.
candidate doesn't always get picked because of those things. But what you're doing, the element you bring in, I mean, you were a project executive before you moved into talent development, before you moved into the real hiring and this internship program development. You had that experience, and the organization saw you moving up, saw what qualities that you bring to the organization, and I think that had to help bring some of those biases from the unconscious to the conscious and relinquish some of that sexism that just exists in the world as it is. I think whether you may want to admit it or not, I think you had a huge part in what McCown Gordon has done for bringing more women in because you are approaching these interns differently. You are giving them an opportunity to be their best self. And sometimes, as women, we need someone to give us that opportunity so that we can show you our best self. And it's a different approach than a lot of other people in the industry have. And so I personally applaud you for what you have done, whether you want to admit that you're part of that or not. There's no question that you absolutely have been, in my opinion. So thank
Well, thank
you.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. And it is a wonderful thing. Literally today, I'm not even kidding. A young woman who has worked with us for, oh gosh, 4 or 5 months. She graduated in May. She's a field engineer on the superintendent career path and just happened to be in the office today. And she swung by my desk and said thank you. And she said, "I wouldn't be here without you." And I was like, "Oh, stop it right there." I said, "I just happened to be in your interview. You earned this." I said, "You were absolutely stellar as an intern. You impressed the team that you were working with your work ethic, with your knowledge, with your curiosity, with your attitude." And I said, "That's what got you here." And I said, "I just happened to have a front row seat for it." And she kinda grinned at me and she was like, "Well, I just wanted to say thank you." And
Yeah.
I was just, I mean, that kind of thing is so inspiring to me. And I'm thinking about this next class of interns that we have coming in and how many of them might be standing in my office a year from now saying, "Hey, I've been here 4 or 5 months and it's going great." Like that is just, I don't know, it's just so rewarding to me to see that. So if I can play a part in any college student's success and as they launch their career, it's just a really nice place to have a front row seat for their success.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't know looking back if I even remember who was in charge of talent development when I did my internship. I didn't feel a connection with them. Like I didn't feel a connection with many people at all when I got my internship.
Mhm.
I just kind of felt like another person who'd been pulled from the labor hall. And granted, I didn't even know what that meant at the time, but making that connection, the connection is so important. People want to feel like they have a friend, that they have a family, that they have a place. And that connection is what brings them not only in the door, but makes them want to stay once they're there. So
yeah, it is just very rewarding to me to be able to work in a company like McCown Gordon, where I'm very proud to work there. The impact that we have on the communities that we build within, I think, is just something to be very, very proud of. The morals of the company I align with personally. Our core values, integrity, performance, relationships, all those things play into decisions that we make every single day. And to welcome someone new into that and say, hey, there's a great big world out there in construction, and this is going to be hard, but we got you. We're going to support you along this, just along this path, and we want to see you succeed. I wish someone would have said that to me when I was first starting my career. It made a
right.
difference.
Well, you definitely found a home in McCown Gordon, and they are so lucky to have you.
Well,
And
thank
all of
you.
those people that work there are so lucky that you're part of their associate development program throughout their entire. I mean, you work with everyone from the interns to the executive team on all of
I
their
do.
development, and development is needed at all levels, not just internship. And you're very respected there, and you're very respected in the industry. And I am so thankful to call you a friend. And I am so glad that you did this interview today. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
If you know someone that could benefit from this particular episode, then share it with them. Or if you want to continue to learn about the untapped and underutilized resources that will take your business to the next level, then follow the podcast. You don't want to miss an episode where we discuss what you needed to hear. And lastly, there is a link in the show notes that will allow you to reach out to me directly if you want to accelerate that learning curve. Thanks for listening. Talk soon.